If you've been following women's MMA, particularly in the UFC, you're aware that Joanna Jedrzejczyk sat as queen and undisputed champion of the strawweight division for about 2.5 years, with 5 successful title defenses. She seemed almost untouchable during that run. Her striking skills were unmatched, and her takedown defense was stellar. Not to mention, her stare downs were every bit as good as the creepiest shit out of Hollywood. Fast forward about 2.5 years from her last successful title defense, and you'll find today's Joanna, who not only is no longer the champion of the division, but a Joanna who has a record of 2-3 in her last 5 fights as a strawweight. So what in the hell Wani happened to her? Why is she no longer dominating the division? When Joanna first came to the UFC in 2014, she was 6-0 as a pro. Not many fans even knew who she was. She was still pretty much known as Joanna, I'd like to buy a vowel please, Jedrzejczyk. She was also a 5-time Muay Thai world champion with 70 fights on her resume, and had by then already developed a world-class takedown defense. To her credit, she was levels above the rest of the fighters in the division in stand-up skills, and the best of the ground fighters were not able to successfully penetrate her takedown defense enough to beat her on the ground. Women's MMA was still relatively young at the time. When Joanna won the UFC Strawweight title in March of 2015, the division had crowned its first champion just 3 months earlier, and women in general had been fighting in the UFC for just 2 years. Her thugness, Rose Namajunas, was a 22-year-old with hair, a 2-2 pro record, and only one official fight in the UFC, in which she got choked out by Carla Esparza. She had been fighting as a pro for not quite 2 years. By the time she fought Joanna in November of 2017, she'd been a pro for almost 4.5 years, which was 2.5 times longer than she'd been fighting professionally at the point that Joanna won her title. The women's division was evolving quickly, and things were changing dramatically. As an example, when Joanna won her title, Amanda Nunes was coming off a TKO loss to Kat Zingano and had lost 3 of her last 6. She hasn't lost since. Ronda Rousey was at the peak of her run, claiming she could beat Cain Velasquez, with her previous 4 fights combined lasting a grand total of 2 minutes and 34 seconds. She would win just one more time before being taken to the whipping post and ultimately soul-snatched by Holly Holm and Amanda Nunes, respectively. The Thug Rose who fought Carla Esparza was an extremely aggressive, risk-taking pressure fighter whose technical skills were not yet fully developed, and one whose aggression sometimes got her into trouble. By the time she fought Joanna 3 years later, under the expert tutelage of coaches Trevor Whitman and Pat Barry, she had evolved into a master at managing distance, with footwork like a damn ninja. For the first time in her MMA career, Joanna was facing another legitimate world-class striker, and one who had seemed to evolve into such, relatively quietly, in plain sight of us all. Meanwhile, Zhang Weili, formerly known as Weili Zhang, or maybe it's the other way around, I don't know, and in all honesty I'm too afraid to ask, was fighting mostly in China and had a record of 2-1 at the time Joanna won her UFC title. So we all know what happened. Joanna got TKO'd by Rose, lost a highly competitive decision in the rematch. Rose was doing it Gangnam Style and Jessica Andrade until she got dropped on her dome. Jessica got what-upped into next Tuesday by Zhang Weili/Weili Zhang, and Joanna actually did turn into the Boogie Woman while losing a split decision to Weili that could have gone either way in probably the best and most violent frigging performances by females since Hillary Clinton found out about Monica Lewinsky. So, what happened to Joanna? What happened is that a couple of fighters who were still green when she became champion, one of whom wasn't even in the UFC at the time, have matured into elite, world-class fighters. They caught up to a Joanna who was way ahead of the curve as a virtually complete fighter during her run as champion and didn't have nearly as much upside. The funny thing is that Joanna is probably a better mixed martial artist now than she's ever been. Her skills are clearly all there. Her speed doesn't look like it's diminished at all. Her will to win is absolutely unquestioned, and her ground game has improved. She may no longer be the undisputed queen of the division. That job belongs to Zhang Weili, at least until further notice. but she's still very much in the championship mix as one of the elite of the division, which as of now would include fighters such as Thug Rose, Jessica Andrade, and Tatiana Suarez when she's healthy again.
Oh, I'm hurt! Oh, my neck! My back! My neck and my back!
And returns with her Khabibishly dominant ground game. And so has evolved the strawweight division in the UFC. If you liked this video, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.